It began on a morning that looked ordinary to everyone on the naval base, but for her it was a day when the weight of silence had to be broken, the kind of silence that eats away at the soul. She was a decorated officer, respected for her resilience, admired for her calm precision in the most difficult situations. Yet what nobody knew was the hidden truth buried beneath her uniform, the kind of truth no medal, no salute, no public ceremony could ever describe. She carried scars not just on her skin but deep inside her memory, scars that spoke of sacrifice, survival, and unshakable courage. The Admiral himself had always seen her as one of his most capable subordinates, tough, sharp, and unflinching, but that day he would learn what it truly meant for someone to be forged in fire and pain. The story goes back years earlier, when she was still young, barely in her 20s, determined to serve her country, determined to prove that women could stand shoulder to shoulder with men in the harshest battlefields. She had trained relentlessly, she had endured all the grueling drills, the endless nights of exhaustion, the weight of criticism, the doubt that came not just from outside but sometimes from within her own mind. Yet she never gave in. What nobody could have predicted was that her courage would be tested far beyond the battlefield of discipline. Her test would come in blood and fire. During an overseas mission, her unit had been ambushed. Explosions ripped the air apart, tearing through the night with deafening force. She was thrown against the ground, shrapnel slicing through her side, tearing into her ribs. The searing pain made her vision blur, but she held on. Instead of surrendering to the darkness, she pressed her palm to her wound and crawled toward her comrades, determined not to let them fall. In the chaos, she shielded a younger soldier, dragging him away from the direct line of fire despite the agony shredding her body. When the rescue team finally reached them, she was still conscious, her lips whispering instructions, her uniform soaked in blood, but her will unbroken. She was flown back, unconscious by the time they reached base, her life hanging by a thread. Doctors fought for hours to save her, performing surgeries that stitched flesh but could never erase the jagged marks left across her ribs. When she finally awoke, weak and trembling, she realized the journey ahead would be as painful as the wound itself. Recovery was not just about her body, it was about her spirit. She learned to walk again through agony, learned to breathe through scars that burned every time she moved. Yet what kept her alive was not fear, but purpose. She vowed she would return to service, that her scars would never become her weakness but her strength. Years later, she fulfilled that vow. She stood tall in uniform once again, her chest decorated with honors, but her scars always hidden, carried in silence. Nobody knew the price she had paid. To others, she was simply a soldier like any other, but to herself, she was a survivor carrying memories carved into her skin. And then came the day when the Admiral questioned her resolve during a private briefing, perhaps unintentionally dismissing her as if her strength was only on paper, as if she had not faced the fire of battle. She did not respond with words. Instead, she rose slowly, with quiet dignity, and in a moment of solemn defiance, she unbuttoned her jacket, lifted her shirt just enough to reveal the rib scars carved across her side. The room fell into silence. The Admiral, a man known for his commanding voice and unyielding authority, stopped mid-sentence. His eyes fixed on those scars, silent witnesses of pain, courage, and survival. He realized in that instant that no medal, no record, no report could capture the reality of what she had endured. He had doubted her, but now the truth was etched before him. The silence stretched long, heavy, filled not with shame but with respect. The Admiral lowered his head slightly, as though acknowledging not just her sacrifice but the depth of her humanity. From that day onward, he never questioned her again. Instead, he became one of her strongest advocates, knowing she was not just an officer but a living example of resilience. Her story spread quietly at first, whispered among those who served with her, then carried further until it became an unspoken legend in the halls of the base. Young cadets would look at her with a mixture of awe and reverence, knowing that the strength she carried was not just in the uniform, not just in the salutes, but in the hidden battles she had fought and survived. And though she rarely spoke of it, those who knew her realized that her scars were not marks of weakness but of victory. They told a story that words could never fully express, a story of how courage means standing tall even when the world has tried to break you, of how sometimes the most powerful truths are carried silently beneath the surface until the moment comes when they must be revealed. And so the woman who raised her shirt to reveal the wound became more than a soldier. She became a symbol, a reminder that real strength is not about what you see on the outside, but about what a person has endured, overcome, and still continues to carry with grace. The Admiral, once her superior, never forgot the silence that filled the room that day. He would later tell others that sometimes it takes the quiet revelation of scars to remind us of the true cost of freedom, the true meaning of service, and the unbreakable spirit of those who give everything for their duty.